This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Nothing brings people together quite like Team USA at the Olympic Winter Games. From NBC Universal's iconic storytelling to the innovative technology across Xfinity and Peacock, Comcast brings the Olympic Games home to America, sharing every moment with millions. When Team USA steps onto the world stage, people aren't just watching, they're cheering together. This winter, everyone is all on the same team. Comcast, proud partner of Team USA.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Hi, I'm Ashley Nelson and you're listening to Anything But Footy with the latest on the Winter Olympics.
As the closing weekend begins of the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympic Games, IOC President Kirsty Coventry has described them as a true Winter Games. I'm Michael.
And I'm John. This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy, the penultimate one. We talk about the Olympics and the Paralympics, though, all the time, not once every 4 years like everybody else does.
But with locations from Bormio to Cortina, Milan to Livigno, all of these place names have become very familiar over the last 2.5 weeks. Is this the future model of the Winter Olympic Games?
We'll be asking the question as the Games come to a close. No more TNT, tomorrow's news today, but we look back and reflect on the Games with a Team GB athlete.
Hi, it's Niall, Treacy here, Team GB short track speed skater. You are listening to the Olympics with Anything But Footy.
There is, of course, still sport happening. As we record this, it's the busiest day in terms of medals of the entire Games. So we've news from the Games with the Flying Dutchmen and women in speed skating. And will Russia be back in the Olympics fold like the Paralympics in a fortnight? I think we know the answer. This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy. Download, listen, follow, pass it on. Share the links, let your friends and fellow Olympic fans know. And anyone with those withdrawal symptoms come Monday morning, tell them to listen to it all over again from the start.
Hi, I'm Adele Nicol and you're listening to Anything But Footy with the latest on the Winter Olympics.
So the Games are coming to a close this weekend. Olympic President Kirsty Coventry has revealed that she spent the last couple of days up in the mountains under the snow, and it felt like a true Olympic Winter Games. Oh, that sounds tempting. One of the biggest talking points at these Games has been the multi-sites, the different locations, the different cities, the different towns, the different clusters, the different venues. Now, we took a decision that we were going to base ourselves in Milan, a city that the world knows, but we also knew it was unlikely that both of us would get to see much in the way of snow sport, an integral part of the Winter Games, of course.
But ultimately, it's not about us, funnily enough. It's all about the athletes. And despite the grumbling and groaning of journalists having to move locations to cover the whole Games, the athletes are the most important people. IOC President Kirsty Coventry used to be one, an Olympic champion, in fact, in swimming. And at her closing media conference of the Games, she insists the feedback they've had, the Games have delivered right across all the locations.
I've had the opportunity to go to all venues across these Games and villages, and the athletes are extremely happy. And they're happy because the experiences that the Miko team and my team delivered to them have been the same. So we really tried very hard, and I have to thank the Miko organizing committee for hearing from our athletes commission that the one thing that would be really important to the athletes with the concept of a widespread Games was to ensure that the experiences in each of the villages would be exactly the same. And I've gone to every single village and just about all the venues, and they are exactly the same. And I spent some time with some athletes in Cortina who said they think that their experience in the opening ceremony was actually better than walking into the stadium because they got to be so close with everyone in a small city and they got to engage, and they were sharing some of the highlights with me of seeing little kids from the windows and they're all waving and smiling, and then they got to like run down and high five them. And you know, when you're walking into a big stadium, you don't get that close to the spectators. So they loved the fact that the team worked really hard on ensuring the experiences were going to not just be the same, but even better. So I think that's really good. And then all the other data we're collecting, we know we're going to have to look at. It's part of the evaluation process after the games, where we sit down and we look at it to say, right, what worked, what didn't work. There's going to be some things that didn't work. But really, these games are truly and have been truly successful in a new way of doing things. In a sustainable way of doing things, in a way that I think many people thought maybe we couldn't do or it couldn't be done well, and it's been done extremely well, and it's surpassed everyone's expectations, and that's what we need to take away from the games.
So Kirsty Coventry on these multi-site games. Michael, you managed to get to Cortina, as we know, last weekend. You might be going back this weekend. We know the sustainability and legacy arguments, but what do you make of multi-site games, and is this the future moving forward?
Yes. I mean, we spoke about it, didn't we, when we were together in Milan last weekend. I just can't see there being many or any places in the future that could step up and host the games that the grumblers want, to be honest. I mean, where in the world do you have a palatable country that you want to step up and host the games? I
was going to say you could go back to Sochi, but who wants to do that at the moment?
You don't want to do that. So one, you need a country that you want to go to, that you want to give this showpiece event to, and then two, you need to find somewhere. And this is like trying to choose a summer holiday in our family, where my wife says, I want something that's got lots of bars and restaurants and a city vibe, but close to the beach. I want somewhere where it's sunny every day, but not too hot. I mean, you want with the Winter Games, a city with lots of arenas with ice rinks in, but you also want to be able to build a big air and a half pipe and a slope style course, and then have some mountains for Super G and downhill and all the rest. And I'm afraid with the scope and the size of the modern Winter Olympics, that place just, I don't think it exists. Now, the Americans keep pointing out that Salt Lake might be a good venue for the games, and it's been in Salt Lake before 2002, and it's going back to Salt Lake in 2034. But unless you go down the route, and we have discussed it in the past, of just a permanent Winter Games venue, wherever that might be, I just can't see it being an issue. And I'm with you. I mean, the Olympic Games, journalists are very important. Storytelling is very, very important to the Olympic Games. Reporting on what happens at the Olympic Games is very, very important. But ultimately, it's bigger for the TV audiences, and it's bigger for the athletes involved. And that has to be where the priority is on the staging. Now, these games have been a bit spread out. We've hinted that the French Alps Games has got its issues already with 4 years to go. I think that one's going to be even more logistically tough to try and manage. But it's not about one or two people from a newspaper or a podcast, dare I say it, getting around and seeing everything that they want to see.
I think what Kirsty Coventry alluded to as well was that actually some of the athletes that she'd spoken to enjoyed the fact that, as you always say, for the opening ceremony, they didn't have to stand around in some hangar for several hours, and they felt that they could be part of something. So in Cortina, you're right in the centre of town. You were literally walking through as parading athletes, but with the crowd next to you, with just behind the barriers, and they enjoyed that part of it as well. And we talked about it 2 weeks ago. It's crazy, isn't it? 2 weeks ago, that this novel way of doing the parades with two cauldrons and multi locations seem to benefit the athletes, and that has continued, whether that's in the athletes' village or the different athletes' villages, and just making sure that they have an Olympic experience without, as you say, being able to maybe go and see some of the other sports. And I think that's probably the only thing that, if you're an athlete and you want to go and support your team across different disciplines or different sports, and that's been harder this time to do because you are in those clusters. But look, when you're in Europe and the viewing figures and the interactions have been huge for these games. You'll hear about it over the next course of the next few days about how much interest there's been in Europe compared with Beijing and Pyeongchang from this part of the world, from Europe. When you then stage another Winter Olympics in 4 years' time in another European city, it's going to be a challenge, as you say, because Europe has developed and has already developed, and you can't just plonk a whole winter games in the middle of nowhere because it costs a fortune, and that's what you got to realize. So yes, you could do it in Saudi Arabia if that's what you want to do under a huge hangar. But do we really want that? Do we really want the Winter Games? As you say, I can't imagine your wife saying, "I want a bit of snow, but I want a bit of heat as well." It doesn't really work like that. So, from a holiday point of view and from a Winter Olympic point of view, I think it's been really, really good games in terms of storytelling, as you say. It seems like it's got a lot of traction. Social media as well is just exploding. And in 4 years' time, what's the next bit of social media? What's the next way that people are going to engage with these games? And that is the kind of thing that the IOC president, Kirsty Coventry, and her Fit for the Future development team are looking at, because they have to stay relevant. Because as soon as you're not relevant, it's over.
If we knew what the next social media trend for the Olympic Games was, we wouldn't be doing this anymore. We'd be sat somewhere, probably with a snowy outlook, but also somewhere that's hot, because we could afford that.
That's fair. That is fair. Now, on whether the IOC will follow the International Paralympic Committee and allow Russia and Belarus athletes to compete under their country's flags in future Olympic Games, President Coventry said the IPC is completely separate from us. There have not been any discussions at the moment at this point. And those three words are the key part of the phrase from Kirsty Coventry. At this point, nothing has been discussed, but it will be.
Yeah, well, they will have seen the backlash that the IPC have had, but they will also recognise that, I know they have youth games coming up, and as we understand it, there will be Russian athletes and Belarusian athletes.
I think they're looking to. Yeah, they're trying
potentially at those youth games. Now, if they do make the decision to bring those athletes into the youth games, it's only going to cause a ripple in the pond. When it comes around to Los Angeles, I think there's quite a lot of time to go, and that is what the IOC like, is to sit on their hands and wait and see what happens, and they'll leave that decision.
Yeah, but it's never. They're not going to suddenly just announce it. They have to vote on it. There has to be a congress. There has to be a summit. They all have to get all the members together. So that there's no rush. They're not, as you say. They don't rush anything. The IOC, even with the new president. So until they have to make a decision, they're not going to make a decision.
And they can fudge it in a similar way to the IPC have, which is to make the decision so late that no Russian and Belarusian athletes can qualify. Which means that they've said that they can come back in, but there's not actually much of an entry point to come back into the games, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I think it's just going to be something that we talk about probably for 18 to 20 months before we get any kind of clarity on it. Anyway, on to our news from the games and the first two heats of the two women bobsleigh. Germany's Lola Nolte missed out on gold in the monobob, leads the way after the first two runs of the final in Cortina. Deborah Levi, who's a 0.18 second advantage over her German teammate, and the US's Callie Ambrose Humphreys and Jasmine Jones in the bronze medal position.
Oh. What a name that is.
Ambrose.
Ambrose Humphreys.
I love it. That's that's what I would call my sled. Team GB's Adele Nicol and Ashley Nelson, 21st going into Heat 3 this evening at the Sliding Centre. They need to finish in the top 20 to have a fourth run. So need a big, big push and a terrific steer from Ashley and Adele.
Brad Hall and the team begin the four-man Bob campaign this morning. It's been somewhat of a troubled build-up, Taylor Lawrence being injured, some disappointing rankings in the official practicing before a 6th and a 7th in the last couple of days. The good news is we are told that Taylor Lawrence is back. He pushed the Bob and trained yesterday. He will line up for Team GB this morning. And when we spoke to pilot Brad 2 weeks ago, just before he carried the Union flag, he was looking forward to the racing starting.
We had 2 weeks off before coming out here, so that was great to have. We hadn't had much time off since we started the season back in October, so we're all feeling fit and healthy, ready to go. We had our first 2 runs on the track this morning, so we're looking forward to stepping up the notch and to keep progressing forward, getting ready for the races.
The USA's Alex Ferreira won his first Olympic gold, winning the men's freeski halfpipe in Livigno. The 31-year-old had silver and bronze medalists in the event from the past 2 games. Gus Kenworthy, who was back from retirement, of course, in his 4th Olympic Games, representing Team GB. I remember he had represented another country when he won his silver medal a few years ago. He finished 6th overall.
Another comeback win for Canada in the men's ice hockey. 35 seconds left on the clock in the third period as Nathan McKinnon finally put the Maple Leafs ahead to win the semi-final 3-2 against defending champions Finland, who had been 2-0 up. As the headline, I think, on the Olympic website says, Finland squander a 2-0 lead. They will face the Canadians, the USA, on the final day of these games after America thrashed Slovakia 6-2 in the other semi-final. So Finland will face Slovakia in the bronze medal match tonight.
I met a lot of Finns in Milan yesterday. There were absolutely huge, vast numbers. As I was having a little walk around, I went back to see the Duomo yesterday, and I went back up to see the Olympic flame, knowing as I know that it's the final weekend and wanting to soak it all in again. And there are, vast numbers of Finnish ice hockey fans that were enjoying the Milan spring sunshine.
They ain't enjoying it now.
Well, I get the impression they might be back on. When I say enjoying it, you know what I mean. I think they might be back on enjoying it this afternoon, ahead of that bronze medal match. And what I would say, I mean, you've been really into the hockey at these games, and a few people have sort of sent me little messages, whatever, saying things like, "Oh, we'll all be down our grassroots skeleton track, following Matt Weston," which we know is not going to happen. But there is an ice hockey league, there is an ice hockey structure in the UK. So what I would say is, if, like you, people have been inspired by watching the hockey at these Olympics, go and see it. Go and watch it. I mean, I've been to Sheffield and watched Sheffield and stuff playing in the ice hockey. It's great. I mean, it's not Olympic level, but it's still good. It's still a good night out. It is still really good. So, try and go and catch whatever it is, whoever it is, your local ice hockey team. Get involved. Meanwhile, Jean Van Vout of the Netherlands brought the men's 5,000 metres relay in short track home, the final leg having already won 2 golds and a bronze at these games across Milan. The Dutch also won the women's 1,500 metre speed skating final. Team GB's Elia Schmedding has been in 3 events here, finished 23rd. Now, the Dutch certainly love their speed skating, don't they? I always remember the clip that went a bit viral from I think it was the opening ceremony of the last games. And the Dutch team were coming into the athletes' parade, and the US TV commentator said, well, the Dutch speed skate on their canals to school during the winter, which I'm not sure is actually true. But the way they performed at these games, it wouldn't surprise me maybe if there is some truth in it after all. They sit 4th in the medal table, 8 golds, 18 medals, all won in either speed skating or short track speed skating. It's phenomenal.
That's targeted. That's going for knowing your strength and going for victory. And you mentioned about skeleton and the fact that there was a few eyebrows, or you can't do skeleton in this country. What's the point of it? What? It's not really a sport because you can't do it. Well, no, but you can still be a brilliant athlete like Matt Weston was, and then he's turned his hand at something that he can then win and deliver on. I don't really see why people are criticising. Some people are criticising winning a medal in an event which, okay, legacy-wise or participation-wise is a hard thing to do. But what we should look at Matt Weston and go, well, he's a fit, brilliant athlete. I could do that in any sport. It doesn't have to be skeleton. Like he was a taekwondo fighter and realised that I don't think he could do it anymore because he got injured, and he's turned his hand and he's now become a double Olympic champion. I hate the snobbery of it. I really do. It's and you know the Dutch have done incredibly well to win all these medals in those sports. And I tell you what, you talked about the Finnish fans in Milan when we've been there as well in the last few days. You can't move for the amount of orange. The Dutch have taken over Milan at times in those long track speed skating and short track venues as well.
This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy. We are so close to the end of the games, we won't have tomorrow's news today because tomorrow's news today will involve being at the airport and heading home. We will have news about Team GB and some other news from the games coming up.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
Hi, I'm Greg Cackett, GB brakeman for Team GB Bobsleigh. You're listening to Anything But Footy with the latest on the Winter Olympics.
This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy. There's been some real highs and some lows for Team GB during these games. So as the Winter Olympics is coming to a close, we can't really do our TNT, tomorrow's news today. So during the last few days of Milano Daily from Anything But Footy, we are looking back, reflecting on some of the action with some of the people involved.
Yeah, Niall, Treacy came here as Britain's sole representative of the short track speed skating. We talked about the Dutch just a few moments ago. He was joined by two others in Beijing 4 years ago. In fact, it's 36 years since we won a medal in the event. Nicky Gooch in Lillehammer in 1994 won bronze in the 500 metres. Wilf O'Reilly won 2 golds when it was a demonstration sport at Calgary in 1988. So what now for Niall, who was winning the Olympic 1500 metre final after a brilliant race in the semis before crashing out and being penalised for it too? Well, Michael has been speaking to Niall to find out.
I've had a good time here. I think I've really enjoyed my Olympic experience. But yeah, like you said, it's a mixed bag. Came in here with 3 distances, and there was only really 2 that I was more focused on with the 1,000 and the 15, and an unfortunate start to the 1,000 with a shared responsibility call against one of the Canadians. So that was a bit frustrating, but I had a few days to really get over it, get back on the ice, try iron out some things in the skating, and then the 15 was just more than I could have expected, really. I think to get to an Olympic A final, I think in any of the distances, if you told me at the start of the games, I would have bitten your hand off for it. So yeah, I was super happy about that. And then the 500, it was just more of a case of the hard work was really a few months ago on just trying to qualify for that. I'm not new going into it. I'm not a natural sprinter, so it was sort of just to go out there and have fun. Unfortunate with the fall, but yeah, I couldn't have really asked for much more with that. So
let's talk through them in sort of chronological order then, if you like.
Yeah.
Were you accepting of the decision in the 1,000 over what happened?
I think so. I think it's definitely a tough one. They've brought in the shared responsibility. I think maybe last year was when they first started bringing it in. We've definitely seen it quite a lot in this games, and obviously it goes from different referee to different referee. They see different things, and we've heard that some referees thought it was more me, some referees thought it was more Stephen. So I think the shared responsibility probably was the right thing, and I look back on it and been oh, maybe I was too aggressive, and maybe I should have given up the spot. But then what sort of happens in short track is if you do give up a spot, you can very quickly find yourself, just because your corner is compromised, your exit of the corner, you don't have as much drive. So normally that's where people make overtakes. So you could have easily found yourself in fourth. So I think I would have been really kicking myself if I was well, why did I give up that spot if I hadn't have qualified? So I think came back and like spoke to my coach here, spoke to my coaches back home, and they were like, we think you've done the right thing. It's just it's just unfortunate. Like, it's the Olympics, and like you don't really get a second chance of it. And I mean, the person that it happened with was he was world champion in this distance. Um, so I think he would also be equally as frustrated. And I think from a part, he maybe thought that he didn't need to set up the overtake as much as he needed to because it was so early on the race. But like I said, I think if I'd given that position and ended up further back in the race, I would have been really frustrated at myself. So yeah, it is what it is. I would love to have gone further. Like that is my strongest distance. So, but that's you understand that sort of things happen in short track when you get here. It's not something new. So.
And you channeled that brilliantly into the 1500. And what a way to qualify and get through to the final. I mean, people were all talking about it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was definitely like I came off the thousand and it just felt like really sour. And I remember like chatting with my psychologist and thinking that I didn't want to go into the 15 and being like, well, because the thousand's gone poorly, that I feel like I'm under pressure and like the time's running out for the 15. And then I remember we were sitting just in the village. It was like a nice day, like we were just sitting outside, and I'd got the race came up for my 15 on like the draw, and it was like a stacked race, and it was like two Koreans and a Canadian and a French, and we were like, this is a hard race, and it was top three qualifying and one fastest fourth. And my coach was like, oh well, let's make the race quick so that we can maybe like that if it doesn't go well, we can get a fourth and be one of the fastest fourths. And I remember like as I was doing my prep for that race, I was like, that's not how I want to race it. Like I think if I go in with that mentality, it just looks like I'm scared. Um, and so I was like, I'm going in this race to get top two. Like that's how we've raced every race in the World Tour season. I said that's what I'm doing. And yeah, to come out second, I think I was joint with one of the Koreans, and the other Korean fell. And that Korean that fell, he just got a medal only a few days earlier. So like the standard of that race was really high. So I was really proud of myself for that quarterfinal. And then in the semi-final, feel like we're in great shape. Like a lot of the boys seem to be struggling on the ice more than I am on these longer distances. So I was like, let's just do the same thing again. And we went into it, and I could hear them all overtaking each other and bumping into each other. And I looked up to my coach, and he was just like come wider, like just keep carrying the speed, keep carrying the speed. And then I think it was like 2 laps to go, and I was thinking like you don't need to do anything spectacular, like just keep the same line. And like when I crossed the line, it was like it felt like I'd won the whole Olympics when I crossed the line. I got like I could see my family in the crowd, and they were going absolutely crazy. Like the shoe was going crazy, coach was going crazy, performance director was going crazy. And yeah, it was just like that was the highlight of my skating career so far. It was getting it through then. And to be into an A final and didn't get advanced, didn't have people fall over in front of me. It was just pure, just like we did that. And then yeah, to get into that Olympic A final was like you dream of that. And we fought. And I remember 4 years ago when Farrell he'd made his A final, that 15 had a lot of people in it as well, and it started really quick. And so I thought the tactic's going to have to be slightly different. Normally I wait a few laps. I was like, I'm going to have to be hard from the start. Like this is going to really hurt, but it's like what's required. Um, and then yeah, to be leading an A final at the Olympics with I think like 6 laps to go. I think the Dutch he then went to become Olympic champion and were the overall Crystal Globe winner. They'd overtook me, and I thought I'm actually in great position. Like I don't feel physically tired. I'm just doing the same, and I set up the corner as however I would normally do it, and I hadn't seen that the Chinese was behind me, and yeah, I think I like got the penalty there, and again came off that's the thing with short track on you. There's a lot of things that you can't control, and but there's nothing I can tell you I would have done differently in that race. I don't think you can ask me to go into a corner differently than normal based on something I can't see. And that's just the way short track is. But I think still to come out ninth it would have been nicer to have the sixth, and it would have been nicer to have a chance of going for the medal. But like that's short track, and that's the beauty of it, unfortunately.
Do you feel a bit aggrieved by the decision?
Yeah, I think a little bit, but I think there's decisions that go like different ways all the time. I think I've definitely been on the good side of them as well as the bad side. So I think yeah, it's just that's short track speed skating. A lot of people seem to see like they hate it, but you learn to take it like a bit growing up with the sport.
You're a philosophical young man in the way that you look at your
I wouldn't
sport.
say that.
But to the bigger picture, but to have said that the highlight of your career has been at an Olympic Games, not everybody gets to have, and I know your career's clearly not over and there will be other highlights to come, but at this point to have had a highlight on the biggest stage must be a great thrill.
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's definitely key moments that like really stand out. But I think what was like so special about that as well is like that my family was there for that semi. And like all my parents and my brothers were there, and my cousin from Germany, he came over, and then like my fiance's family was all there, and just like them saying, even though that I was so upset after the A final, and they were saying like that they couldn't have been more proud of like how I'd skated in that semi. I was just like, yeah, like you can't really like to have your parents say that to you, like you can't really ask for more than that. So.
And what's with the official coming into the middle of the track, making their kind of announcement and then walking off with this smirk on their face after moving you down to 9? What's going on there?
I don't know. I think he was. I think. I think the rest of the crowd thought that there was more to be said on like other. Because when I was sitting there watching it, because I had no idea. So when the crash had happened, I had no idea that I would have been at fault. And so I'm sitting there, and the coaches come off, and they go, "Well done." And then on the big screen, they're looking at other decisions. So they haven't even looked at my one. They must have looked at it somewhere else, but then I haven't looked at it on the camera. Um, and then one of the TV cameras turn around and start filming me. And that's when I was like to my coach, I was like, oh no, like they're looking at something that's not the rest of the broadcasters looking at. So I think that's what I don't think that there's not anything malicious from the ref. I don't think being happy penaltying me. I think he was he wasn't aware that everyone else was waiting for more to be said, and he was like, I'm done speaking. So yeah, I'm not going to take that to heart that he was happy penaltying me.
It's definitely been one of the moments of these games that's been shared widely on social media, that's for certain. You told me when we met a while back in Nottingham on the day that you were officially selected about how much you just love the sport. Has your love for the sport just increased over the past couple of weeks just to carry on and go on and continue to achieve?
Yeah, I think so. I like even watching like the 500s like before my race, I was watching it and some of them were just mad, and like I just like watch sport, and like sometimes like you get I think just like desensitized to what's happening in short track a lot of the time when you're in it, and then just to sort of watch it and just be like this is crazy. And like some of like the fairy tale stories of like other people, like the Dutch guys yesterday, they had both brothers on the podium, and yeah, there's I think I think it's the best sport in the world, and I definitely haven't fallen out of love with it. And yeah,
There was obviously you and then Elia as well, obviously, in speed skating. I mean, the Dutch have been amazing at these games. Italy have been fantastic as the host nation. Might be a little bit early to say, but what needs to happen in kind of British short track and British speed skating to get more numbers at the games?
well, I think the biggest thing that is holding us back as a nation is the fact that we don't have a facility safe enough to do short track, basically. Like the National Ice Centre has been absolutely brilliant in like accommodating us and giving us the ice time and whatnot. But the fact that every time that we go out there and we do like speed sessions, because we don't have that borderless system where the pads move, because we have them solid plastic boards behind the barrier, like you're risking a concussion every single time you do speed skating. Like the amount of concussions that we get in our team is probably other teams don't experience the same sort of thing. And so I think when you skate with a borderless system, you have more freedom to try new things and experiment these things and really like push the boundaries. Whereas I think it's a real shame that in the UK we have all these ice rinks, but we aren't able to have just one And that's the thing that I will keep asking for to our governing body and to funding cycles and whatnot. And even once I've stopped skating, I'll keep trying to push for it, is that we just need a permanent borderless system. Because then I think you can really start pushing the boat out and being more adventurous in what you're skating. And I think it sort of shows on like the fact that maybe a part of it why I'm a not natural sprinter is because we don't get a whole lot of time where we're going to the top speed. A lot of the time is just volume, which is probably why I'm much better at the 1,000 and the 15 than I am at the 5. And I think that's a serious thing that we need to look at. Obviously the goal would be to have a world-class program and funding from the UK sport. That's number one. But I think to make that sustainable is we need an ice rink that can facilitate world-class athletes.
And just finally, we've got a closing ceremony in Verona in a couple of days. How proud will you be to join your history-making teammates from Team GB that, as we speak, have 3 gold medals and more chances to come?
Yeah, no, definitely. I can't wait to go out. Like I've only met a few of them at the media summit in the summer, but I think I'd love the chance to go and meet a few more of them. And yeah, I think it's definitely an Olympics I can come away from proud of my own performances and proud of Team GB's performances as a whole.
No, great to speak today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Now, Treacy, funding is going to be an issue, isn't it? Let's be brutally honest about this. There's not going to be any more coming. And I'm not just talking about for skating or short track skating, but across the winter sports.
Yeah, I think what we understand is that the pot, £32.5 million, which the winter athletes got in the build up to these games, it's probably going to stay about the same.
And that is across the Olympics and Paralympics, to be clear.
That's across the Olympics and Paralympics and across all the different sports and disciplines. So we're talking across curling, across speed skating, short track, skating, figure skating, everything, skeleton, bobsleigh. So I don't think we're going to see a massive increase. You know, we're not going to say, oh, look, we got 2 gold medals in skeleton, so we're going to throw another £10 million at them. Also, I mean, how many more medals can skeleton win? There's a women's competition, a men's competition, and a mixed competition. They won in 2 of those, the men's and the mixed. I mean, obviously, they probably should have maybe looked at another podium place or could have won another podium place in the mixed event where they finished 4th. Tabby finished 5th, but I don't think a massive amount of investment is going to bring a huge return there. And I think the funding, as we said, I think it's tough at the moment. Government are making tough decisions on what to fund. I think they still feel that elite sport is important. The National Lottery is another challenge. That's a diminishing pot of money. People do not play the lottery in the way that they maybe did a few years ago. So again, there's not the handouts from lottery. So what you do have is money coming from DCMS, Department of Culture, Media and Sport. You have money coming from the lottery. And then you've got organisations like GB Snow Sport that have had to be a bit more commercially clever in raising their own money. And these NGBs, national governing bodies, can do that. They can go away and build them up to be slightly more commercial looking operations. In other words, getting partners in, getting sponsors in and delivering for them. That, I think, is the opportunity for an organisation like British Bobsleigh and Skeleton at the moment is how do they go away and monetize? It sounds bad. Niall, Treacy. How do they go away and bring in some sponsors and some partners off the back of what Niall Treacy's done here in order to give them the £2-3 million that maybe would be that difference to getting Tabby Stoker on the individual podium and getting Marcus and Freya into that silver or bronze medal position.
And you mentioned the fact that the British Bobs and Skeleton Association, then you've got British Ice Skating, then you've got GB Snow Sport. They're all separate organisations, they all run separately, they all have their own teams. I wonder whether moving forward, some of them will combine some of the work that they do maybe behind the scenes as well. Do we need everything happening 3 times over, 4 times over, 5 times over, whatever? Is there a way that they can all work together moving forward across like a winter sport organisation rather than the different organisations? However, having said that, as you said, it isn't just about elite sport. So British ice skating, they want people to come out and skate. That is part of their job, part of their remit, part of why they'll also get money from the likes of Sport England and the like, because they want participation. So again, with all sporting organisations in the UK, it's getting that balance right between pushing the elite sport, but also the participation part of it as well, getting people off their sofas.
Yeah, and the phrase that I heard speaking to all these athletes in the build up to these games was sharing the ice. You know, we have to share the ice. Our elite figure skaters have to share the ice with our short track speed skaters and the like. I mean, obviously, Elia Schmedding plies her trade mainly abroad, and we heard in that interview from Niall, we don't have a dedicated track for him to train on in this country. And we go back a few years, and I mean, there was a real push by, I think, Steve Redgrave was involved in it, saying, you know, if we build the track, we build the program, there's no reason why we can't start emulating what the Dutch have done at these games. And maybe Niall Treacy would be the catalyst to that. The thing that struck me most in that interview was the fact that he was saying how dangerous it is to train for his sport, the number of concussions that speed skaters get because the facilities they're training in are just not fit for purpose. And we know that building a dedicated performance center with a track and everything else is a big capital expenditure. I'm not sure, unfortunately, at this moment in time, whether that money is available to do that, unless some idle billionaire is listening. And
what they tend to do is go and buy a football club.
Yeah, well, that's the thing these days. That's the thing. You know, they're not going to go away and build the whatever corporation short track speed skating complex, are they? Which you know, I think if Niall had held on in that final and we went through it, I think fairly forensically in that interview, his Olympic Games, if he'd held on and surprised everyone and won a medal, I mean, it could have been a game changer. Then again, it might not have been. We've seen that in other sports. We saw a surprise medal in badminton, didn't we? For Chris and Marcus back in 2016, we thought, that's it. All the money's going to flow into badminton. What happened? They lost their funding.
Absolutely.
Doesn't always work.
It doesn't, but Redgrave Pinsent Lake at Caversham has certainly benefited British rowing and the rowing teams, and I can see where his argument was for the short track.
The cycle centre and the cycle centre in Manchester, another terrific example of if you build the facility, and the reason they built that was for the Commonwealth Games in 2002, then people will use it and success will come. So can you build a facility that gives Niall Treacy and future Niall Treacy somewhere to train? What is the legacy of that venue? How do you make it add up? How do you fund it initially? They're all questions for government, really, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. In other news from the games, away from the winters, and just to show that we do this all the time, not just during games time, it's a month to go to the World Indoor Athletics Championships. I've had so many emails and so many social posts about Keely Hodgkinson and her world record, what we talked about yesterday. Poland are staging the World Indoor Athletics Championships, and there's actually a World Indoor Tour Gold final this weekend in Turin, the venue of the indoors. Winners will secure a wild card for the championships, and the action is on Sunday afternoon.
Well, we are here every day, and there's not many left with Milano Daily. And if it's not games time, don't forget we'll be here as well every week with an Olympic and Paralympics podcast for you. We have news, views, interviews, and our spin-off podcast, Great British Bosses, the behind-the-scenes conversation of sport in the UK. Well, behind the scenes at Anything But Footy, we are putting another series together. It's essential listening if you are into sport, whether that is elite sport or grassroots sport in this country. Anything But Footy isn't just for the Olympics, it's for life. Do check out our socials, Anything But Footy. You can find us on Insta and Threads. You can find us online, anythingbutfooty.com. Listen to our Spotify Olympics music playlist. I've noticed they play I Like to Move It a lot at the Winter Olympic venues, so one maybe to add on there. This is Milano Daily from Anything But Footy.
Hi, I'm Phoebe Becker.
I'm James Hernandez.
Team GB Figure Skaters.
You're listening to the latest on the Winter Olympics from
Anything But Footy.
What is natural? When you read natural flavors on a label, most people don't realize it's often not real food at all. Those hidden ingredients quietly work against how your body feels and functions over time. That's why Just Ingredients uses only real food ingredients, so you know exactly what you're putting in your body. Stop guessing. Start knowing at justingredients.us.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.